Hello, everybody. Welcome to Love Insight, the site for science based insight to help you find love. I'm your host, Brandon Rader, psychological researcher, matchmaker, dating, and relationship coach. And this is our other fabulous host, Arlene Washburn.
Hi everyone, Arlene Washburn here. Excited to be here, science-based dating and relationship coach. And I know, Brandon, that this is your area of expertise when it comes to style and all that good stuff. So I'm going to have you lead the way. And first, let's go into our love insight for the week. What's going on your end?
A common theme that has been coming up between me and my clients is, and this is something we've touched on a little bit in the past, is having unrealistic expectations about what a person's current life should be like and what they should look like. And this kind of ties into the style piece because there are ways that you can maximize your wardrobe to maximize those romantic opportunities strategically. But in particular, I had this client who went on a date and they felt like the person was overall a really good match. They felt like there was lifestyle compatibility there. They felt like they could see themselves hanging out with this person and that there was common interest there. But the person they felt was a little overweight. And they felt like their wardrobe in particular didn't accentuate, or I guess you could say flatter their body shape. And my client themselves actually is not, they work out regularly, but they don't have a six pack. They have a little extra cushion around the midriff area. And so I found it interesting that they are much more critical of their dates when it comes to having a little extra cushion around that area. And I just felt like those expectations, where you are in your life really needs to match your expectations. And you need to understand that a person's not going to possess all of the qualities that you want. And I think something when it comes as superficial as maybe weight, something such as weight, isn't something we should rule out a potential amazing candidate, especially someone that we click with. We shouldn't rule that person out. I mean, weight can be lost, right? It's temporary. It's something that a person could change. And if you value a healthy lifestyle and you work out regularly, and that person values a healthy lifestyle, and if they work out regularly and they just haven't reached their fitness goals, that's something you two could do together.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, and I agree with you to some extent. And then again, if you have a core value, like I know you, Brandon, are very health conscious, so I know it's really challenging to be with someone who's not within the same mindset. It's very frustrating because I know people who won't date someone because they eat fast food, and but at the same time, to your point, I think first of all, there are studies that show that couples that are of a similar attraction level are more likely to succeed for the long haul. So a lot of times people date aspirationally and they want to, I don't want to be mean about it or superficial about it, but they want to, date outside of their, what do they call it? When you're like somebody's way better looking and you, to some degree, you're kind of being delusional. I know that in some cases there are situations where money and status will actually have an impact on that. But then again, you sometimes have to wonder what's the motivation for the relationship. So, um, what are
Well,
you
and
saying?
on that point, like going back to the core value piece, both these people had the core value of health and fitness. They both work out regularly. They both run marathons. They both monitor their alcohol consumption. It's just that for whatever reason, this person's physique isn't the ideal for what the client wants. But that value is still there. And so I'm like, you two could do it together. And I was like, you're not exactly where you, and I know my client in particular also has some health goals that they're working on. I'm like, you're not exactly where you want to be either. I'm like, so you two could do that together and grow together. It's like, so I don't understand. And I agree with you, dating aspirationally. I love that. I often, the way I phrase it to my clients is that when you're chasing after the fantasy, it's because you're not ready for something real.
Oh, I love that. Mic drop. Boom. Well, and I know you as a matchmaker, and I'm sure that you looked at all the core values and that those things were in alignment. So, it's really challenging for us as matchmakers because we can clearly see these things when we're working with clients, but they don't see it. I mean, just a second ago, I was responding to an email of one of my clients that I have a match for this client, and she has living, quarters in two different states. And there's one that I have for her at a place where she doesn't live on a regular basis, but she was always open to that. So we had, her schedule is hard to coordinate because when she decides she's going to go there, it's always on a whim. And people don't exist around your schedule, right? So you need to give me a heads up so I can coordinate things. So we have this one match that I want her to meet. And our process as matchmakers that are executive matchmakers, we typically offer a concierge service where you schedule the date. And who wouldn't want that? Like, we're looking at your schedule and we're making sure that they align, and we're setting up the location and we're setting everything up, and all you have to do is show up. And so, of course, she went out to this other state on a whim, and it didn't coincide with this gentleman. And so now we are talking about the next trip. And she says to me that she wants to have a phone conversation before she meets him. And that's just not our process. We don't allow our clients to have conversations on the phone prior to the actual meeting because you're paying us to do all the vetting. So anyway, the point is that she says, well, I don't understand because when we do online dating, we have phone conversation. Well, you're comparing apples and oranges, right? And I have to make this distinction, which kind of drives me crazy because there's a huge difference between the online space, meeting an individual who claims all these things on their profile. Some of it is incorrect, versus working with a matchmaker who's verifying everything, right? So the value of what you're paying me for is to do all the vetting and interrogating people to make sure they have the qualities you're looking for, so that when you show up on a date, you're not there to do vetting, but more to build rapport and see the chemistry's there. And so that's what I tried to explain, that the chemistry can only be determined when two people are sharing within the same space. You can see each other, you can smell each other's scent, you can see how the person laughs and how they communicate, how they treat others, all this stuff. But anyway, it's just kind of like it's just hard to believe that people don't understand that difference. And like I said, this whole conversation, with her living in one state and then having phone calls back and forth, what they say is if you wait too long to meet someone after you've had conversations, specifically more than 2 weeks, you're less likely to find that person as appealing and attractive, because at that point you've either built up some ideas in your head, or you already kind of know too much too soon. It's just not ideal, right? But anyway, so I'll have to deal with that when we finish here and finish sending that email explaining these differences. But let's jump into our topic today, because this is also an area that is very challenging for matchmakers, because we always want to help our clients put their best foot forward. And I certainly, ever since I had my business, always had a team of experts to support the clients in the areas that they need. And sometimes image is one of those where, like, for me personally, I love a beautifully decorated room. I can see a room and say, oh my gosh, that is me. That's how I like it. I just don't know how to pull it together, right? And some people are that way also when it comes to their attire. They don't know how to pull it together, but yet they know kind of how they want to look. And so sometimes you just have to work with someone to help you get there. But you first have to acknowledge that, that you're really not putting your best foot forward. So let's talk about the kind of looks that people should consider and how they should treat a first date. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, foremost, I want people to know that there is a distinction between dating specific attire and all of your other attire. So, what you wear to work should be different than dating attire. What you wear on a date should be different than your everyday attire. A lot of people go wrong, especially men, where they will wear to a date what they would typically wear to work, or their everyday wear, or their going out wear. And it's not strategic. So dating attire should be very strategic. You should be wearing the right colors, you should be wearing things that flatter your body. There's general style rules that you follow, but there are specific rules for style that can help you maximize romantic opportunities on dates, that can allow you to communicate psychologically your level of interest and evoke the type of responses you want on a date. I personally follow a what I call the 3 date grace rule. And this 3 date grace rule not only has rules that people should follow to assess level of compatibility and chemistry on a first date, second date, third date, but also it goes into what you should wear on a first date, what you should wear on a second date, and what you should wear on a third date, depending on the trajectory that you want the connection to go. So on the first date, I always suggest that you wear, this should be your smart casual attire. So smart casual is really neutral. It's not too formal, it's not too casual, it's not too conservative, it's not too flamboyant. It's just right in the middle. I usually say for this rule, it should be one up, two down. When I say one up, that means one more formal item. Two down means two more casual items. So for men, this could be wearing a button down, which would be your one up, a nice pair of jeans, which would be your one down, and then it could be a pair of like loafers or boots, which would be another down. For women, it could be the same thing, jeans, it could be a nice blouse, which would be the one up, and it could be a pair of sandaled heels, which would also be a one down. And the reason being for the smart casual zone is that most people are meeting online right now, right? Or even through dating services, in which case you have not built a rapport with this person prior to the first date. Therefore, this is really like a first assessment. You two are just meeting to assess, is there any type of connection here? Is there any type of chemistry here? You also don't know what that other person's style is like. You don't know if they're conservative, you don't know if they're casual, you don't know if they're super fashion forward or what. And people pay attention to other people's wardrobe, right? It just captures our eye. Even if it's subconscious, we still pay attention to it. And so if you are too disparate from what the other person is wearing, that can stand out, right? It can be like, ooh, no, they looked way too sloppy, way too casual for me. No, they looked way too conservative, way too stuffy for me. And so you focus on the wrong things. So that smart casual is that neutral zone, which is perfect for a first assessment.
I love that, and I love what I love about that is basically you're leading with your personality, but you look appropriate, and it's not too much or too little. It's just a perfect formula, and also making sure that whatever it is that you're wearing, more the most important thing is that you feel comfortable in it. And I say this, particularly for women, because sometimes, and I've done this myself, where I'll put on something and it keeps slipping down, or it's a little bit tight, and I'm a little self-conscious, or something's wrong with the outfit, that it just doesn't fit properly. And I had, maybe you had an idea that that's what you were going to wear, and you stuck with it even though it wasn't just right. And the worst thing you can do is that, because then your whole focus the entire time that you're out is on this article of clothing, and then you start fidgeting and fussing with it, and that creates a level of insecurity in your demeanor and how you go about whatever it is that, your conversation, the way your posture, all of it becomes very insecure. And one of the things that people look for with connecting with a partner is somebody who's confident. So you're right on track. And also, I want to say that even as a matchmaker these days, I don't really set people up to go on dates where they're going to a fancy restaurant anymore, because I think it's just too much and it's not necessary. I think it's easy to have more casual first dates, because it's all about building rapport. And like I said, leading with your personality and not having this be so much about where you are, and also how you look, but people will judge a book by its cover, so you must look presentable. So I'll turn it back to you and your
And
expertise.
is interesting is that so I conducted a survey of 112 heterosexual men to ask them about some of the what they're attracted to in a woman's style on a
Oh, you're muted. I think you just muted yourself.
there we go.
There you
Back.
go.
So the first thing that they said that was actually a red flag to them, something they don't find attractive that surfaced from the survey, was a woman who dresses for other women, essentially. So they said, and they identified that as a woman who is dressed in head to toe labels, expensive designer labels, or wearing super fashion forward items, maybe wearing a lot of makeup. And the reason being is like, well, that might impress another woman, right? Another woman might appreciate an expensive designer handbag. Another woman might appreciate your amazing extensions and eyelash extensions and beautiful magenta lip shade or whatever it might be, but men don't. Actually, most of the heterosexual men that I surveyed said that they cannot identify expensive designer labels, and when they do, it can almost be a red flag to them because that to them can be indicative that the woman might be high maintenance or really expensive. And I want to clarify that the men that I surveyed are all men of a high socioeconomic status. So this has nothing to do with them not being able to afford these types of items. It's just that their preference is not having a woman who spends most of her money on expensive designer labels, which is what they don't shoot the messenger here. This is just what they associated with high designer labels. So I thought that was really interesting. Is for our ladies, don't dress like you would on a first date for another woman. Dress for the man. A lot of men actually even reported that they would prefer a woman in a cheap, sexy summer dress as opposed to an expensive designer label head to toe. They said have her show a little bit of skin, make sure it complements her body type, a nice color. I'm good. I could care less if it came from Target, Walmart, or Bloomingdale's.
Absolutely. And I want to add to that because right now I there's a lot of stuff on YouTube where people do these crazy makeup things where they transform their faces and all of that. And while that might be interesting and fun, what the data shows is that when you put on too much makeup, initially you might the person who's looking at you might find you attractive, but over the course of the conversation the trust factor goes down. And again, one of the things that you're looking for in a partner is someone that you can trust. So if you're overly made up and you have this glamorous makeup on, you might look cute in the beginning, but over time, the person who's looking at you is going to lose trust. I mean, this is just what these, papers and this research shows. So I think that's really, really interesting as well.
Now, conversely, for our gentlemen, don't dress like you would to go hang out with your buddies. Don't wear loose fitting pants. Don't wear, and when I say loose fitting pants, this means regular or loose fitting, or so you'll want to wear either slim fit or boot cut are really the only two that are appropriate for wearing for dating jeans. Everything else, I've heard this from a lot of women. They call them old man jeans. When you wear those loose fitting or regular fit jeans, they
And
remind them.
probably darker.
Yeah, they remind them something their grandpa would wear because they're loose, they're ill fitting. So if you look it up, you can even Google this. Old man jeans is a thing. So men, you need to get proper fitting jeans. Don't wear shorts. Don't wear don't wear athletic shoes unless you're going to play a sport.
That was
Don't
my
wear
pet
baseball
peeve.
cap. Don't wear t-shirts, especially loose-fitting t-shirts, t-shirts with big logos. Again, these things are things that are cool to wear with your buddies or maybe your everyday comfortable wear, but they're not appropriate to wear on a date because women in general typically admire or respect fashion or people who know how to put themselves together because from a societal perspective, there's more pressure on women to adhere to these types of guidelines. So they do pay more attention to fashion. And so it is important for a man to wear. So again, conversely, especially women, shouldn't be wearing too many designer labels or be too done up. And men, you shouldn't be too casual. Men, you should dress for women, which means wearing nice fitting jeans, nice fitting clothes, wear a button down.
Yeah, I love that. And I would say, and I'd love to get your take on this, and maybe this will take us into the next bullet point. But if you're wearing a t-shirt, if you must wear a t-shirt, make sure it's not super loose. And I think a black t-shirt sometimes with a sport coat looks really classy. And so maybe let's talk a little bit about color, because that's a huge area that people completely take for granted. And obviously there are studies that show that there's certain colors that when in doubt, wear red or black. Period, full stop. And I would love for you to get into that and the reasons why those colors are ideal.
Yeah, so let's start with red. First off, I actually recommend that people wear red on a second date. And this being is that I think that the second date attire should actually be what I call your sexy upscale attire. So when you're on that first date, and this is more of like your smart casual, your neutral zone, because you're in a first assessment, which is really what the first date is. Second date is really the first date. That means that both of you two establish there's some type of connection there, and now you two are actually interested in getting to know each other on a romantic level. That so the second date is really more like the first date. Also, you've assessed more of what that other person's style is like, and it's you want to take it up a notch. When you take it up a notch, so if you're in a more smart casual attire, more of that neutral zone, and as Arlene had mentioned, in a more casual style restaurant, it's a great place for that first assessment. But if you're romantically interested in this person, you can communicate that through your fashion by stepping it up a notch on that second date. So do wear a more sexy color like a red, or a nice sleek black, or step it up. And when I say sexy upscale attire, this is two up, one down. So wear, ladies, you can wear like a really sexy dress and then maybe more casual shoes if you want, or you could wear a more sexy top and maybe some like sleek leather leggings and more casual shoes. Two up, one down. Guys, wear a sport coat, could do a t-shirt, some nice dress pants, or some nice jeans and dress shoes, right? Two up, one down. This is going to communicate to your date that you're interested, because there's going to be a clear distinction between what you wore on that first date to that second date. It says, hey, I'm actually trying, I'm stepping it up a notch, I'm interested in you. So for
Yeah.
red, the reason why I like red for a second date is because red is associated with a romance color. Arlene found a study where it was talking about how men find women who wear red more attractive, and I actually found a study that showed that women find men who wear red more attractive as well.
Yep. So it's a win-win. And again, the psychology behind it, like you said, I just want to, echo what you said about how this second date now you're showing more interest and more effort. I almost like to say that first date is a zero date. It's just an assessment date. And it's usually a very short period of time. So you don't want to go overboard with that. The second date for sure, it's important to show more interest and I say, even a little bit sexy for the women, maybe, but be aware of what are your assets as a woman, right? Like, so if you don't have nice legs, don't show your legs. Maybe show a little bit of cleavage or a neckline. The neck is very sexy. You don't have to show cleavage. Your neck itself, but you should really be aware of what are your assets, because I see people sometimes, and this is not body shaming. We're all beautiful no matter what, but you want to highlight the things about you that are the best looking things, right? Because you're not there to audition, but you're somewhat there to put your best foot forward and impress and create more interest. And specifically for women, there's that visual factor that men put more weight on than women. We do look at what a person looks like, but we can sort of overcome sometimes looks as we learn about the person and we fall in love with their personality, their accomplishments, their assets, even some people. So yeah, I love that. So what's the next thing? So we talked about, the first one being, a little bit more casual, a little bit dressier the second time around. What's the third one?
Yeah. So Just to go back on for like the second date, I do think that it's important to, like Arlene was saying, to emphasize, some, they're called erogenous zones, areas that gain sexual capital. So the neck is one, cleavage for women. The back for women is also
Mhm.
an erogenous zone. The midriff area can be an erogenous zone. Legs and feet are actually an erogenous zone, and lips are also an erogenous zone. So you can wear a more bold lip color on a second date.
Mhm.
First date should be more of a natural lip color that's closer to the flush of your natural flush of your skin. Second date can be a little bit more of a bold lip color. So there's lots of areas that you can play with to expose erogenous zones on a second date. So like Arlene said, figure out what are your assets and also what are you more comfortable exposing, but just make sure you're showing some skin and emphasizing some of those erogenous zones on that second date. For men, the sport coat, I always recommend a sport coat for a men on a second date, or a suit coat, and that is because it does help enhance part of their erogenous zones, which are the shoulders.
Mm.
And so typically suit coats will have a little bit of padding in there, and they have like a little bit of the squaring at the shoulder area, which does give a man a more broad shoulder look, which is an erogenous zone for a woman. It's a turn on.
Mhm.
I actually oftentimes will recommend even wearing a long sleeve button down as opposed to a short sleeve button down. Take off that jacket if it gets a little bit hot, and then roll up the sleeves. That will draw attention to the erogenous zone of the forearm, which is
Mhm.
also an erogenous zone on a man for a woman. So men, there are areas where you can play with your erogenous zones too. The glutes, wearing nice fitting jeans or pants, suit pants, that maximize the glutes a little bit. That's an erogenous zone for women too, for on
Or,
men.
yeah, or slim shirts instead of the
Yes.
baggy shirts.
That obviously depends on a man's body type. If you have a little extra weight around the stomach, then you can wear a looser fitting shirt, but still find a shirt that's more form fitting on the arms to
Mhm.
emphasize the biceps or the forearms. And then again, the glutes are a great are a great erogenous zone to emphasize for men. Okay, so third date. I recommend the third date always be an activity based date,
Mhm.
because those first two dates are really to have conversation, to build an intellectual rapport, and to try to get to determine, do we have compatibility? Are our core values and our lifestyle and relationship goals in alignment? Because that's the most important piece, right? Third date, activity based date, should all about assessing chemistry, and this is because that when you're doing an activity based date, this is the ideal environment to assess chemistry. Because let's face it, if we're doing a first and second date, a traditional setting, you typically have a giant barrier between you two, a table. You're usually sitting down, so you have limited body movement. People are typically more nervous on first dates and second dates, which can inhibit our communication abilities. So all of those things really prevent us from getting an accurate read on chemistry and who a person is and what their actual communication style is like, etc. So third date, activity-based date, you want it to be an activity you both enjoy because that gets the dopamine going. And dopamine is what is associated with attraction. So by doing an activity you guys both enjoy, it gets that romantic chemistry or that spark going. You want it to be body language conducive, meaning there's not a giant barrier between you two. So it could be going to a concert, going for a walk, going for a hike, going to a museum, going golfing. Just some activity where you're able to move and there's no physical barriers between you two. And so your wardrobe should be appropriate for the activity, of course. So I call this your comfortable, sexy outfit.
Mhm.
And so this is when you can wear more comfortable fitting jeans, or when you can wear like a t-shirt that's still nice and form fitting, shouldn't be loose, baggy, or have big logos. And maybe you wear like some sneakers. I'm not a huge fan of like the athletic tennis shoes unless you're doing something athletic.
Mhm.
There are nice plain sneakers out there that you can wear that have the same feel as an athletic shoe, but they're more stylish than those sports shoes. So men, women opt for sneakers, plain sneakers, black, white. They even have like gray ones as opposed to those sports tennis shoes with the logos, unless you're doing something sporty.
Mhm.
And so the idea with this attire is that it should still look sexy, but it should be comfortable because you want to be able to move in it. You want it to be breathable and you want it to be invitable. So by the third date, if you two are really moving around and interacting, you guys have the opportunity to physically connect more than you do on a first date or a second date. And you want it to be inviting fabric too. So, wearing something that looks like a really soft cotton is great because you don't want people to be worried about wrinkling you. If they put their arms around you, you can feel comfortable and they can feel comfortable. So I think comfortable, sexy is the way to go for the third date.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I would add that not just doing something that you both like, but doing something that neither one of you has ever done, because
Yeah.
that is ultimate when it comes to arousal. If you both have this crazy idea that you want to jump out of a helicopter, and it's something you've thought about doing, is on your bucket list, go for it. That could cause you to fall in love faster. But yeah, to your point, it's also really important that you remember you're still on a date. So even if you're casual, you want to look presentable. And of course, the most important things, things that you cannot forget about are things like your nails. And I'm not just talking to women. Men, if you have dirty nails that are unkempt, women feel like you're never going to touch me with those, or come, like nails are very important. As you age, make sure that you're grooming so that you don't have superfluous hair in different parts of your body that are just, like coming out of your ears or long eyebrows. And, we don't look in the mirror as often, and we're not mindful of these things. And sometimes we forget. So it's really important to keep that in mind. So grooming is super important. Whatever shoes you wear, make sure those shoes are clean and shiny, because women look at men's shoes. For some reason, I've surveyed women over the years, and that's like a big thing. They also look at your watch, and the jewelry that you wear is really important. And so there's more, it's kind of like it's the whole picture. It's like we're talking about attire, but there's other little pieces in there that enhance or detract. So it's really real. And grooming, so you can look like an amazing looking person, but if your breath is not correct, if you have bad breath, and people get bad breath if they're taking medication and they get dry mouth, for example, or if they don't brush their teeth or floss regularly. So these are things that sort of kind of falls in the same category of what we're talking about. If you're trying to connect visually and also just in general, keep all of this in mind. And for these activity dates, women, I know for me, I have very curly hair. So if I'm going to do an activity date, I might actually wear my hair up and put a ponytail on that looks stylish, that I don't have to stress or worry about the curls they're gonna, or my hair is gonna frizz out. Like, think ahead about what you're doing, and so that you can maintain whatever look you came with. So I think this will be very, very helpful for those of you who are listening. And yeah, I think this is a lot to take in. So I hope that it is helpful for everyone. And we'll leave it there. What do you think?
Yes, I think it's great. And I would like to add teeth whitening
Oh,
products
yes.
into the mix. That is that is feedback I hear back consistently, that about not having white teeth. And white teeth don't necessarily mean healthier, like from a logistic standpoint. Actually, it can be the opposite because it can mean you're wearing down your enamel sometimes. But they have enamel safe whitening out there. Don't get me wrong. But point is that people associate whiter teeth with a cleaner mouth.
With
Uh,
clean and youthful, you look younger. If you let your teeth get really yellow, you look older, and so that's really important.
Yep. So that is like, if someone has yellow teeth, then that is one of the first things that I hear. Like, they're great, they're amazing, even if their style looks great, even if everything else is on point, they will fixate on that because they'll say, "I can imagine kissing that mouth."
Yeah.
So you need to have a mouth that someone wants to kiss. I also think that includes lip balm. Like, women typically wear lipstick or lip gloss. If you don't, I recommend you do. But for men, you should be wearing lip balm. You should keep your lips hydrated. A woman doesn't want to kiss this desiccated, wizened mouth. It's like, whenever I see someone with a dry mouth, I'm like licking my lips. I'm like, it's just like I'm like trying to like signal to them, like, your lips.
Yeah.
uh,
Oh my
but
goodness.
yes. So I think this is great. I hope that people found value in this. What to wear on a date. Again, it should be specific. And if the things we talked about don't feel comfortable to you, remember this is for dating specific attire. You can wear whatever you want in the rest of your life. When you go to work, when you're going working out, when you're hanging out with your friends, wear what you want. But for if you're trying to find someone and you're trying to spark attraction on a date, you should be wearing dating specific attire.
I love it. And so, yeah, we'll leave it there. But next week we are talking about what to say or not to say on first dates, and I hope you'll tune in for that next Friday at. Why am I saying Friday? I meant Wednesday. Next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you'll join us for that because I think that'll be a great, great conversation. But until then, reach out to us on Instagram. You can reach me at Arlene Washburn, and or you can look at my profile here and click on my link tree. And for you, Brandon.
You can find me on Instagram